نريد أن نقدم لكم هذه الهدية التذكارية. شارك الرأس بمقاتلي الحمراء مقاتلي النخبة في الثورة السورية.
The new Syrian president's recent actions sent shockwaves through Moscow, publicly embarrassing Putin and making it clear that Russia's influence is far from absolute. In a bold display of defiance, Syria signaled that it will no longer quietly follow Russia's lead, exposing the limits of Russian power and authority in the region. The Syrian military presented a Russian delegation visiting a military exhibition in Damascus with red armbands, the distinctive accessory of an elite unit that successfully battled against the Russian military contingent in Syria. The video of the armbands being presented was published by Clash Report. Most of the sabotage operations in Idlib against Assad's forces, Iran and Russia, were carried out by fighters who wore these red armbands. They belonged to the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, Levant Liberation Committee. Due to their distinctive armbands, these units were nicknamed the Red Bands. They carried out high-risk missions, including deep infiltration operations and complex urban combat scenarios. As one member of the unit told journalists, the Red Bands are a force with specialist training and assignments focused on operations behind the front line. The main task is behind-the-front-line operations in all their forms, including martyrdom operations, otherwise known as istishad and suicide attacks. Even when defending, it is a force that remains in an area after it is occupied in order to inflict maximum damage on the enemy. The group first came to public attention in 2018, with training videos showing fighters wearing distinctive red armbands during military training. Since then, a number of offensive operations attributed to these units have been documented. They became especially known for their achievements in the battles in Idlib against Russian, Syrian, Iranian units, as well as the attack on the Russian base of Khmeimim in western Syria, which resulted in the deaths of 5 Russian servicemen. In November, the Russian military arrived in the Syrian province of Quneitra on the border with Israel, near the buffer zone, with 15 pieces of military equipment. The final point of the Russian troops' route is the village of Saida al-Hanout, in the south of the Syrian Golan Heights, near the buffer zone. This is likely to be part of a security agreement in southern Syria that is currently being discussed. Syria is interested in having the Russian military police resume patrolling the southern provinces of Syria, as it did before the fall of the Bashar al-Assad regime on December 8, 2024. Russian forces remain in Syria largely due to pressure from Israel, which seeks to prevent Turkish military influence near its borders. While Moscow's presence is tolerated, its role has become increasingly limited. Russian units are confined to select areas, often sidelined in decision-making, and frequently face public humiliation from local authorities and communities. Once a dominant force in the conflict, Russia now finds itself navigating a delicate balance, allowed to stay, but stripped of real power and influence, overshadowed by both regional actors and the priorities of Israel and Turkey. And there is more. Representatives of the former Assad government are gathering militants and preparing a rebellion against the new government in Syria. Former intelligence chief Kamal Hassan and Assad's cousin Rami Malouf are trying to form new groups and organize an uprising in Syria's coastal regions, according to a Reuters investigation. They are also fighting for control of the network of underground weapons caches created in the last days of the dictatorship. Assad himself has largely withdrawn from the public eye since his escape, 4 sources close to his family told the agency. However, other high-ranking figures from his inner circle who are now in Russia, including his brother Maher, have not accepted the loss of power. However, they act separately, competing with each other. Hassan and Makhlouf, as well as other groups fighting for power, are allocating funds in the hope of forming units of about 50,000 fighters in Syria and Lebanon. These are representatives of the Alawites, a minority Islamic sect that is a minority in Syria, but under Assad's rule held leadership positions in the country. Maher, who is also based in Moscow, is counting on the help of former soldiers of the Assad army, but has not yet taken any active steps and has not allocated any money for the uprising, Reuters sources said. During the investigation, the agency's correspondents talked to nearly 50 people with direct knowledge of the plans of Assad's associates, reviewed financial and operational documents, and analyzed text and voice messages. The organizers of the potential coup, whose assistants operate in Russia, Lebanon, and the UAE, are competing with each other for the attention of potential supporters and are not going to return Assad to power. Hassan, for example, has been tirelessly exchanging calls and messages with commanders and advisors, complaining about his loss of influence and making grandiose plans for how he will govern the coastal part of Syria, where the majority of the Alawite population lives. The power struggle continues just as it did during the Assad regime. Ansar Shahud, a researcher who has studied the former Syrian leader's dictatorship for more than 10 years, told Reuters. But instead of pleasing Assad, the focus is on finding his successor and controlling the Alawite community. To counteract the plotters, the Syrian authorities sent Khalid al-Ahmad, who is close to both Assad and the new president, Ahmed al-Sharaa. He was the leader of Assad's paramilitary forces, but sided with his childhood friend al-Sharaa. Al-Ahmad's task is to convince former soldiers and civilian Alawites that their future is linked to the new Syria. Al-Sharaa flew to Moscow in mid-October. Putin, among other things, negotiated with him to keep Russian military bases in Latakia and Tartus. They are located on the Mediterranean coast in western Syria, with Tartus being relatively close to the Lebanese border. In November, Russian troops arrived at the border between Syria and Israel. The new Syrian government is interested in having Russian military police resume patrolling the southern provinces of Syria. In France, Marines opened fire on drones that flew over the Ile-Longue naval base in the Finistère department in the evening. It is at this base that nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines, SNLEs, are deployed, which form the basis of the naval component of France's nuclear deterrent, Le Figaro reported, citing AFP. According to the gendarmerie, 5 drones were technically detected on Thursday at about 19:30 over the territory of the base adjacent to the port of Brest. After the targets were detected, an anti-drone system and a surveillance system were immediately put into operation. The Marine battalion guarding the facility fired several shots at the UAVs in an attempt to stop them from flying over the restricted area. The Atlantic Maritime Prefecture announced the launch of an official investigation into the incident. The spokesperson for the Maritime Prefecture, Frigate Captain Guillaume Le Raslet, said that sensitive infrastructure was not in danger. The origin of the drones has not yet been established, and, according to the prefecture, it is too early to draw conclusions about their operators. At the same time, it is noted that such flights may be aimed at destabilizing and psychologically pressuring the population. Drone flights in the area are not uncommon. On the night of November 17th to 18th, a drone was already recorded flying over the Crozon Peninsula, which includes Ile-Longue. The Ile-Longue base is guarded by 120 Marine gendarmes and Marine riflemen, and the facility provides maintenance for 4 SSBNs, at least one of which is constantly at sea to maintain nuclear deterrence. Against this backdrop, the number of incidents involving drones flying over military and critical facilities has increased in Northern Europe in recent months, and the leadership of a number of countries has linked these actions to possible Russian activity. Recently, unknown drones violated the no-fly zone during the landing of the Ukrainian president's plane in Ireland.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.